Coming to you live from the Now Media Newsroom.
I'm Jim Check. You're watching Now Media. With me, Mayor Tom Dyas for the City of Kelowna. Thank you for coming in. This is, I think, you were in here about a month ago as well, eh?
Yeah, thanks, and thanks for the opportunity once again, Jim.
You were just in Ottawa. You sent that letter. That letter was a big deal for across Canada, kind of a national story. You sent that letter and you wanted something done about repeat offenders. And in that letter you highlighted, I told you then that it was a powerful letter that was written. You had this one repeat offender, and I might get these numbers wrong, you know, like 32 failures to appear, 32, I don't know, there was a lot of numbers in there. You probably know these numbers better than me, but 1,500 cases, open cases, something like that, and just a few offenders. Just a couple people causing most of the crime in downtown Kelowna.
It was, our visit to Ottawa was very strategic. We were aware that the budget was coming down, so we obviously had no idea of whether it would move forward or whether it wouldn't move forward. But there was discussion around the potential availability of capital for infrastructure and for also opportunities around different types of employment. But it was, as you mentioned, it was also around bail reform. Minister Sean Fraser was someone that we had
dealings with the housing minister, right?
Yeah, we had, when we had the Housing Accelerator Fund of 31.5, I had the opportunity to, 31.5 million. I had the opportunity to meet him here in the community at that time, and we've maintained communication now that he is in a position to deal with bail reform through his current position. We sat down and had a further discussion on the importance of bringing this forward so that repeat property offenders were not continuing to evolve through this system. And we did have 15 individuals within our community, or we do have 15 individuals within our community who had 1,335 police files activated in 2024, which is roughly around 80 per each individual. And so we needed to go into great detail on some of the changes that we felt the federal government should look at to address these repeat property offenders. And when I was back in Victoria in September, there was 189 municipalities there. And the discussions that I had with a number of municipalities was that each community was affected by a similar type of situation. Different numbers, some were more, some were less, but it's just the importance of making changes in that legislation to create safer communimies.
Do you think it'll get done? Because there is some critics out there saying they're not going far enough. Do you think, you know, anything helps, I guess? But
I am very hopeful that it will advance, but also in speaking with Mr. Fraser, he was open to understanding that there may needs to be continual type of alterations to the design as more items come up, or if it does not go far enough. But we were successful in having repeat and the key wording of property offenders. There was legislation coming down with regards to concerns on auto theft and a number of other things that were happening in Eastern Canada, but we were very specific on what we were trying to address, and it aligns with also what the province is trying to address. Now we need the next two steps, which are Crown prosecutors, more Crown prosecutors within our community, and we need to establish that mandatory compassionate care to basically have a place for those individuals who have mental health and addictions and are, again, cycling through the system.
You met with Sean Fraser, who promised you $31 million. How much of that is Kelowna going to actually see? Did they commit to finishing that? Or?
Yes, they did. Okay. So right at this point in time, we've received about 60% of it. We have some other steps or other pieces to complete as we will receive the rest of that $31.5 million.
So that commitment is going to get fulfilled.
Commitment is going to get fulfilled. But the other piece of it that we asked is that there is an opportunity for some of that capital to potentially not be used throughout the country. And so we had said that we would like to put ourselves in a position that if there is excess capital available for that type of development and infrastructure, that we're ready and willing to be able to kind of apply for that also.
And you obviously got some FaceTime there. We had the photo up on our page there with you and Mark Carney, and I think you met with the Francois Philippe Champagne, the finance minister, as well.
Yes.
And I'm sure a few other people. Was Stephen Fuhr there as well?
Stephen Fuhr was there, and MP Fuhr was amazing for us in helping us connect with all of the different opportunities that are available, because we were there. The two other portions that we were there for was to look at advancing, to request infrastructure capital of $46 million, to look at advancing the infrastructure to the east side of the runway at the YLW. So that is key, because then that opens up some other type of employment development opportunities around aerospace that we're also communicating with the federal government on. So he was very helpful in assisting us in establishing some of those meetings. And then we had a very good discussion around our transit yard and the capital that the federal government needs to look at sharing in line with the provincial government and in line with what what we've contributed with regards to land and some of the base infrastructure that we're working on. So it was some very positive discussions around those three particular areas, and we are in the process right now of putting together more of a formal proposal, especially around the transit yard and around the infrastructure request, and then communicating back with Mr. Fraser on some of the additional changes that we would like to see, moving forward.
I got a couple of big ones for you. One is healthcare, and you weren't the mayor at the time, but a bunch of the Okanagan mayors, I think Thompson Okanagan mayor, signed a letter back there saying communication was one of the biggest problems with Interior Health, and then they replaced that CEO. And we've seen, in Kelowna, we've seen the pediatrics doctors leave the hospital. Then we've seen mass resignations in the Royal Inland Hospital with the OBGYNs. And then also we've seen the same thing with the psychiatric doctors in Vernon Jubilee. And then we're seeing ER closures, and we just reported the other day, Karameas is going down to 3 days a week for ER, and we're seeing this healthcare crisis kind of like play out here in British Columbia, especially Interior. The new CEO did finally, I did get an interview after much pressure, which, then I did ask about the communication question. That's kind of our title of our thing here, communication. Are you getting better communication from Interior Health as opposed to what was back with the former CEO?
As I sit on the regional district board, I am chair of the health district. As regional district, that is the access outside of being the mayor, but that is the access that we have to Interior Health. Each particular region, be it our region, here, our regional district office, and then there's the north and the south and up into Kamloops, each area has its own representative. So being the chair of that board, I have pulled all of those different representatives together, and we have communicated with Minister Ma, who's obviously dealing with infrastructure, but then also Minister Osborne on some of the items that we would like to look at having them address. We are following up on that with respect to having a meeting with Minister Osborne about placement, finding the physicians that we need. There are a couple of programs that we just want to share with that have been brought forward to us that may help Interior Health with some of that situation. And then in addition to that, I had meetings set up with the new CEO of Interior Health that are coming up next week, and also the chair of the board, I'm just starting on his name, but
okay.
you know what? But I know it. So
it'll come to you.
Yes, sorry.
Because I don't have it either on the top of my head.
Yeah.
So, and I did the interview, and she did point some fingers towards the government, to the minister Josie Osborne,
yes,
and money, because there's also getting new doctors, but it's the current doctors and getting them to work back in the hospitals. And that's the pediatricians here in Kelowna, that's the OBGYNs, and then there was a letter signed by, like many doctors, 138 professionals, saying that the situation is not good. And then even in Kelowna, they said the work environment is toxic. And so how do they fix that? And the communication, which the letter outlined, which they leaked out there, after the fact. You know, it was never shared by Dix when he was the minister. Is that improving? You say have a meeting setting up. Do you think that is going to improve? Because part of the problem, I think, is they're not communicating well with the doctors either, or the nurses, or all that stuff. There seems to be a disconnect, and I tried to get from her whether that disconnect was, you know, up or down, and there seemed to be a little bit of finger pointing towards up and saying that the money is part of the problem.
And just from you know, a clarification standpoint, dealing with interior health is not, you know, it's not something within municipal jurisdiction from a political standpoint, because they're their own entity that works alongside the province. In saying that, we also recognize what's happening to our residents when the services aren't there and available for them to have, you know, locally, especially in the area of what happened with pediatrics. So we are having discussions on how they can address them. A lot of the discussions that we have with Interior Health are not so much from a standpoint of organizational as a city, it's more so from a standpoint of the things that they do and the services they provide that deal with addictions and mental health, which affects the community overall. From a management standpoint, with regards to their management of the employees and their management of the physicians that they have, that's what we can do there is suggest, here are some considerations so that you can look at increasing that, but that's a discussion outside of the realm, you know, to a degree that municipalities are able to deal with.
And it's Sylvia Weir that took over, like, when she was officially offered the job on a permanent basis in October.
Yes.
So it's given her some time here to kind of get it.
I've had one meeting already,
Yeah.
So just for a clarification standpoint, I've had one meeting already, recognizing she was coming into that position, and then I will have another one. Myself and the city manager are sitting down with her in about a week's time.
Because we used to reach out, and they have lots of people in the communications department, and we used to reach out a lot too, and it's even tough to get a comment. And so she did say that they were going to try to be better at it. So
yeah,
we'll have to take her at face value right now and see where that goes, right? So. It is a big problem, though, in the interior, especially with ER closures. You know, you talk about Carameas, they're only going to be open Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 8 to 5:30. I mean, what do you tell somebody that's in a logging accident on Tuesday?
Yeah, and I also saw the report with regards to the concern around the ambulance attendants and you know what they're having to do in order to deal with those individuals from.
I mean, the load gets pushed somewhere.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
Communication also, I had Sharon Simpson, you know, the famous Sharon Simpson, former counselor as well, right? And, you know, the Simpson Covenant, all that stuff. She was in here, and she was, I guess, a little hot on the property that the city bought there at the foot of Bernard. That was taken over from Westcorp there. Westcorp deciding not to move forward with that. And that Westcorp tried to get a piece of that the Stewart Park piece there too, because they were going to do 5 towers. And the city of Kelowna, I did a good interview with Doug there, the city manager. I think I got most of my questions answered. One of the questions that is outstanding that I didn't ask Doug is she seemed to say that communication, that she couldn't get anything out of the other counselor, that she felt that maybe that they were being muzzled, and that you know, and I mean that's what her comment was. And any thoughts on what she had to say?
The Westcorp property itself, and I know that I had seen the interview, so you went back through the history a little bit. Yeah. You know, it was acquired back in around 2000. Demolition had happened around 2010. Then there was building permits that were looking
3 or 4 or something like that,
and they all didn't advance. The concern, and this started a little over about a year ago, discussions around this, and a lot of it happened because of Kerry Park. We wanted to look at revamping and redeveloping Kerry Park and how that looks for the downtown core, but recognizing that Kerry Park could be a staging area if there is something built on that site in the future. So to kind of look at redeveloping it and then recognizing it's a staging site, it's kind of good money after bad type thing in that particular area. So this came before council. I did ask council to share this because it came before council kind of in an in-camera meeting. And collectively, all of council, I think Councillor Woolridge was away that day, but collectively all of council agreed that this would be the way that we would look at advancing and moving forward. Because on that particular site, there was a piece of property that which wasn't the city, wasn't Mill Street, which we owned, but it was where the parking lot is itself. And there was the opportunity that somebody could have looked at building something on that site. And they could have established condominiums, they could have established something else, and it just would have came to us for form and character and would have advanced. So recognizing that we're looking for something better on that particular site, discussions happened about how we would look at doing that so that we could hold the site for a period of time and then look at transferring the site over, not the city getting into the hotel business or anything along that line, just basically transferring the site over to somebody who has a vision that they would like to kind of bring forward with it, recognizing all the current rules that are kind of in place. So the idea of your question with respect to it, it came before council, and all of council had a discussion around it, and collectively, all of us unanimously agreed that it would be something that we would move forward.
She also wants to make it an election issue. She said now that the City of Kelowna owns it, then the City of Kelowna, the residents get to decide how it's sold or used or whatever. And she was pretty adamant that she wants to make it an election issue because the election is coming up in October of next year.
Yes.
So, but I think one of her main complaints is that I think she was trying to get answers from some of the councillors, and I don't think she was getting what she wanted, and she was kind of like questioning whether they were muzzled or told not to talk.
Not at all.
Like
Not at all. Because again, as I said, they had received the information in camera. So from a standpoint of them just being respectful of that process, needs to kind of recognize how it's done. Knowing that discussion came out, I asked them, the council, if it was fine if I shared that information in a public realm, that collectively we were in support of it, and it was in agreement that it ended up being I could do that. So there really isn't, because again, when we look at the property, there was building permits on the past that what they wanted to try to do was build a hotel with some type of private
hotel strata kind of thing. Yeah,
private items up front. There is the marina that sits there at this point in time. There's the office building that is on Pandozzi. So it really hasn't changed what we see on it happening, that there was a hotel site. The concern that we had is that there was a piece of land, which is the parking lot, and if somebody chose to, they could have potentially put something on there, which we didn't think would be in the overall best interest of the community.
Yeah, and then the other question she had, and it just came up in council too, is will Kelowna look at a ward system? And I think that's been voted against recently. Is there a reason that you wouldn't look at a ward system? What's the benefit of or not having a ward system?
When this council got together in 2022, one of the first things that I looked at doing was establishing strategic planning sessions. So we sat down and said, okay, what is important to council? What is truly important to council? And I think we probably went and established maybe 20 particular items. Out of those 20 items, we broke it down into 6 major important items that we were going to kind of advocate for moving forward. And then out of those 6 items, there became an associated 30 or so items that we were going to deal with. Every 6 months, as we went through this process, we sat down and evaluated these priorities. But what that allowed council to do is it allowed council to kind of all be rowing in the same direction. We know that some of these priorities are going to take a little bit longer to accomplish. Some are going to take a little bit less time to accomplish. But it was a collective agreement on all these items that were coming forward. We're now, as you said, sitting probably 6 months, 8 months away from an election. And to look at adding a bunch of other items into that at this particular point in time, council just didn't feel it would be in the best interest coming into that election. Council did say, and I know there's been a variety of different correspondence around this, but council did say that it's something that should be looked at. And it potentially something that come up at the beginning of a term when the next council comes into play, so that there is time.
Where is the where cities go to a ward system? Big cities obviously have Edmontons and Calgary's and stuff like that. So where is that number typically? Is it 200,000, 400,000, 500,000? Because Kelowna is still what, 150 or something like that?
165.
165. There you go. So it's grown pretty good. But 165, and then obviously, but the voting public for the city of Kelowna is the 165, and then when you count Central Okanagan, obviously it's 250,000 and stuff like that. But.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the key elements that would come out of the report, to say, okay, these are the numbers. My understanding from the brief discussion that we had is somewhere around about 275, 250, 300, somewhere in that range. We've just received a report the other day stating that our population, the city of Kelowna's population, should in the next couple of decades will go up by about another 50,000 individuals. That puts us, sitting in that range of, 200 and change and in that area. But I think the other important part of this, Jim, is that the other really important part is that if we sit down and do a proper strategic plan, and we establish what our priorities are, and we recognize that there's many different areas within the community, all of the different areas in the community, and we want to advance and fast track items. If we're opening up a roundabout in the Upper Mission, we also have one in Glenmore. We have two now that will advance up in Rutland. If we're building a recreational facility, with our new recreation facility, are we also making sure that all of the different parks through Mission, Glenmore, and Rutland have them? So you are able to make certain that you're addressing all of the issues in different areas of the community equally, without somebody saying, okay, well, I just want it for my region, or I just want it for my region. As long as that planning is in place to address the concerns of all of the different areas, and collectively we've done that. We have pulled that all together, and again, rowing in those similar lines has allowed for us to be able to accomplish a lot of items without a lot of friction.
I've heard this from many people, and I've also done many interviews on this now. I've done 4 interviews with Jeff Moyse, the Aboriginal lawyer. I think he worked 31 years with the government, 6 different governments. And the Cowichan land decision has caused a lot of uncertainty in British Columbia, especially those people that those 800 acres that were awarded in that decision, and they're asked for 1,800 acres. I also interviewed the finance minister, Brenda Bailey, and asked about the uncertainty that this causes. And it seemed to be located that Brenda Bailey said they're going to try to appeal that decision, so as the premier said that. But then just recently there was that announcement on the Kamloops claim there for the whole city of Kamloops and then plus Sun Peaks. And then there was an interview with the mayor of Kamloops yesterday, I believe. And then, he said he was shocked by it. Do you know of anything that would cause some uncertainty here in the city of Kelowna right now?
No. I'm not aware of anything specific that would happen. It was Eleanor Sturko, I think, who brought forward.
Yeah, she's been very vocal on it.
Yeah, with regards to the Kamloops. So I was unaware that one was there. So I know that that's a concern. Yeah. I have had conversations with Mayor Brody with regards to what his concerns are. We've also had discussions with respect to the province. And we have a good working relationship with regards to West Bank First Nations and right. Try to continue to kind of grow those relationships. But I'm not aware of anything specific right at this point in time that is concerning for this particular area.
Yeah, I've heard from some realtors that say some people are sitting on the sidelines right now, Albertans and that, maybe sitting on the sidelines waiting to see how this plays out. But talking to Jeff Moyse, the Richmond decision could take 5 to 7 years before it makes it to the Supreme Court of Canada, and they've said that it has to play out first in the BC Supreme Court before they even hear it at the Supreme Court of Canada, and that could take a while for that to play out. And then right now, David Eby is, I guess, playing a bit of there's things he could do right now to assure the property holders, say the government will back. You know what I mean? There's things, because people can't get their mortgages right now. So
I heard that.
And it is causing a lot of uncertainty. Obviously, those lands have a cloud over them. Again, if you go watch the interviews with Jeff Moyse, he's been kind enough to do 4 interviews with us, and he said that the NDP chose on an ideological basis not to defend certain rights of property owners, and it is causing a lot of uncertainty. And I guess, have you guys had discussions, and are you prepared for the possibility of that happening in the city of Kelowna?
We are very aware of what's happening throughout the province. Yeah. And as I said, I'm not aware of anything specific in our discussions with regards to Kelowna, but we are very aware and watching closely with respect to what's happening throughout the province.
And then crime and safety, obviously that's what you went there for. Are you seeing some improvements here in Kelowna? Like you guys have done a lot of work along the rail trail and that. You've done the three, I think, three tiny home programs now.
I mean, if I look at the tiny homes as one consideration on it, now we have 180 that are available within this community. When we initially put in place Step Place and Trailside, there was 120 of those, and that was about a year and a half ago, a little over a year and a half ago. We know that those first initial 120 individuals, almost 100 of that first 120 have moved on. They've either moved on to supportive housing, they've moved on to, they've gone back to family, they're getting better care.
So you're seeing some decent results from that
Very,
program.
very positive results in that particular area. It's allowed those individuals to have a good night's sleep. It's allowed them to be safe, in that sleep. It's provided them a mailing address, and it's also gone through a series of other things with regards to employment opportunities, connecting with family, counseling, all within those particular sites. What we're looking at advancing some of the community services, bringing back, our speed watch, the auxiliary police now putting into place, having our own superintendent here. Yes, we are noticing substantial changes. Now, in saying that, it doesn't always resonate out to the public with regards to what they're experiencing. When we changed up the rail trail, there was roughly around about 100 or so individuals at that time. It's now down to 35. And a lot of those individuals, if they're able, are moving forward into the tiny homes. But it displaced a lot of individuals, and it caused concerns in certain areas of the community with regards to that displacement. So that is something that we are very aware of. We are watching, and we're trying to address those particular items. At the same time, recognizing that the root cause of this deals with mental health, addiction, and repeat offenders, things that are outside the realm of municipalities of being able to change. So it's a continual discussion, like we did when we went to Ottawa and spoke with Minister Fraser, about addressing those items so that we can make some changes.
The decriminalization, David Eby did finally come out and apologize and said that it didn't work, yet he continues to run it into January. Is that something you're going to be glad to see the end of that? And when I look at, it not proceeding or not moving on, depending upon what the Premier chooses to do with it, I'm also hopeful that it's backed up with better forms of treatment considerations and treatment options, because it's not like just because it stops at a particular month, those individuals still have we still have to deal with those individuals. So that's where we go to that compassionate, mandatory type of care. I'm grateful for the community that is affected by all of repeat property offenders, which has to do a lot with obtaining the capital needed to supply, addictions. Yeah. But I'm also very grateful for those individuals who have these effects and need to find a better way forward. Parkinson Rec Center. That looks like we get to look out the window here and we see the advancement there. They're more than scratching the dirt now.
Are you watching the concrete pour today?
I'm not watching it yet, but I mean, like I said, they're beyond just scratching the dirt, so it looks like there's some progress there. And that is kind of like one of the councils, I guess you would almost say a legacy project for them too, right? That was it would be something that Kelownians will use for many, many decades to come.
It is a legacy product. It is something that is going to. When we kind of look at how that has been in place and for how many years that has been in place and the decisions that were made at that particular point in time to, take the capital or take the insurance money from the pool that, the rec center that burnt down on the water and look at building Parkinson Recreation Center. And now we need to kind of look and say, okay, well, what is the next generation ahead of us? What's our grandchildren and things of that nature? What are they going to use? So I'm really looking forward to that coming about, but then also plays a very key role with regards to the other facilities that will be established in Mission, Glenmore, and Rutland. And now that we're looking at, the BC Lions coming here for 2 season games next end of June, July. and then also potentially maybe CPL, potentially maybe if that comes forward. What we'll also look at doing with respect to updating the Apple Bowl.
When is the ribbon cutting for Parkinson Rec? When could be? Are we on schedule, or where are we at?
The process that they went through to look at bringing that forward, the information I've received is it's still on schedule, so it's in 2027.
Yeah. And again, that brings me to 2026 then. So 2026, a couple of big things happening. The Memorial Cup, which you were head of that committee there. And when COVID hit and we lost the Mem Cup, and you've kind of helped steer it back into Kelowna, so that happens in 2026. And that's a big thing for Kelowna here. That's not too far away, actually, right, Mem Cup?
No, it's, we have the curling qualifiers, which will happen in December. Which is a big item. Then we work our way towards the Memorial Cup. That will take place at the end of May. There's another little surprise that we're working on about a week or so after the Memorial Cup, if everything happens. Then we go into 2 BC Lions games, which will be roughly about a 10-day period. Then we'll go into the BC Summer Games about 2 weeks after that.
And this follows on the tails of the Canadian Music Awards, right?
Yeah.
And
sharing the good news if I can.
That'd be great.
Probably
Kevin's nodding yes. If he says no, we throw him out.
We were always questioning with regards to the CCMAs exactly what would happen from an economic impact standpoint. And all of the calculations that we looked at said that it would roughly be around $12 million. It will come forward that economic impact was $18 million for our community.
Yeah. So there's some big national stage events, right? In this kind of compressed little bit of a year kind of thing, right? Mem Cup, the CCMAs, and all these other events you're talking about.
UNESCO.
Right? UNESCO, yeah.
The designation of UNESCO.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was back in Ottawa, I was just reading through a number of series of media items and newspapers, and Toronto has listed Kelowna as the most delicious city in Canada.
Delicious, there you go.
There we go.
We did that story and it blew up actually on Kelowna, so it did really, really well. And so there you go. People obviously really enjoyed it, right?
Well, I mean, it's just for all of the, everybody who's involved in it, it's a great success story.
And then obviously that leads into an election as well. So I know most people, aren't going to think about it till we get into 2026, but there will be some, people starting early or late or different things. Some people don't start right to the end. Right? You know what I mean? Like I think your first run as mayor, you only gave it about a 6-week run, right? Which turned out to be, not the best idea, right?
Well, I think you were right there, aware of that.
That's right.
Definitely.
So I mean, you know what I mean. So so obviously,
I had a very short runway on that.
Short runway for sure.
Almost a cliff.
Oh, there you go. So all in all, though, I mean, it's 3 years and a bit in already, right? So lots of things that have happened already in Kelowna, and like you said, even the national stage stuff too, which brings more people, more prosperity to the economy. We do have a high unemployment rate right now. What do you think is causing that? Like, and we're banging on the door of double digits here, and Kamloops is already at those double digits, right? So
there's I can say that one of recognizing the importance of bringing employment opportunities to this community was one of the reasons why we went back to Ottawa. Opening up those Eastlands and having the discussions that we're having with aviation and looking at bringing major type of industry here. Tomorrow evening, we have established an economic prosperity task force. Initially, I had the Mayor's Task Force on Crime and then the Performing Arts Task Force, and those ones will wrap up. So I had established a task force with regards to prosperity, economic prosperity, and it is going to look at what considerations and what things can we look at doing to bring to this community to help with regards to any type of unemployment that it's experiencing at this point in time. Because it is a concern. I mean, we can definitely bring events, we can bring those particular type of things, and they help with making certain that there's employment for individuals and there's income from individuals. But what can we also do to bring more permanent type of employment to this community? And that's something that we're going to examine.
One of the people in the background says that most people probably don't know you were a chef.
I was. I came out from Toronto to, and that's why the UNESCO designation is so nice. But I come out from Toronto to the Ontario Pavilion. The Ontario government brought me out on an 8-month contract there, and then I was hired by Delta Hotels to be their executive chef.
What's your favorite dish?
Your
signature dish, I should say, right?
My favorite dish is kind of linguine vongole. I mean, that's kind of the one that
that's
I really,
fancy.
Yeah, I really kind of like that. When we look at kind of, and a really nice lamb done well, but from a signature standpoint, it's pretty stretched. I know the one that I just made up just recently was a very decadent lasagna. So it's just a simple warm fall dish.
I'm the chef at home, and the kids called my stuff slop. So. Dad's making slop again.
Gumbo.
There you go. They didn't even try to be nice about it, right?
It's a way of going through the fridge and making sure that everything gets cooked.
That's right. Your food management is one of the biggest things.
First
right?
in, first out.
First in, first out. Somebody just threw in one last. I think I have one more question, or maybe two tops. Bennett Bridge. Somebody said the cost would be lighting on the Bennett Bridge. It could cost around $1 million.
Yes. And so one of the items coming forward with regards to our budget consultations that we're looking at, which we'll go into in the next few weeks, was something that was brought forward about looking at potential lighting of the bridge. It was for a couple of reasons. One is there are very iconic type of communities throughout our country and throughout the world that have that type of signature where CN Tower, the Needle in Seattle, like a variety of things that have lighting lit on them. So is there the ability of kind of doing something like that? And would there be a payback from an economic impact from tourism, recognition of events? Would it be very photographic to bring something back?
I got an idea for you because I have a property in Calgary, and it's on First Ave, and it's colors. So the street lights are all different colors as you go up and down that. And maybe if you're putting in LEDs, just change the color so you could change them for Canada Day and different Pride Day and different things.
And that's part of that.
You heard that first year on Colonel, by the way.
And that and that was part of the discussion.
There you go.
Plus the other element on it is safety. Yeah. Like there is, there has been a couple of accidents that have happened there on summer evenings. Is there the possibility of that being just that kind of lighthouse in the area, which creates a little bit more safety. But it is a budget item, so it will come forward and we will discuss it.
Do you have any message to share with people as we head into the holiday season as well?
Just the best of the seasons with individuals. Kind of, I know it's been a very busy year for our community. Very, very grateful for the things that we've been able to kind of accomplish. But also, for individuals that they're able to kind of spend time with their friends and family and take a little bit of time away and have a very enjoyable season, Christmas season.
Well, I do thank you for your time. You're very generous. When we ask for an interview, it's great that you come in and share with us, and Doug Gilchrist as well. So I think the communication is good. Communication, the title of our thing today. So communication is important.
And we also appreciate what you do. I mean, we know that, people have very busy schedules, yourself, myself, and so we don't always get the time to sit down and kind of share some of the items that we're doing, and it's and the reasons behind some of the items that we're doing. So we appreciate that opportunity. So
we also, Ian and I do a daily news show. We do more national, international stuff, and we do that every day, weekday. We're talking about in the new year about doing an Okanagan-based or more of a local flavor. We've got lots of comments from people and saying we do a good job on the national stuff, that we should do more local stuff. So we're going to explore that as well, because we don't have a local kind of like newscast or whatever, like a video newscast here anymore. So you know what, there's so much happening right now that I don't think you're going to have any problem filling that slot. There you go. I do thank you for your time, and I do thank you for joining us at Now Media. Tim, thank you.
We don't just report the news. We live here too. We're your neighbors, bringing you stories that matter to all of us. No government funding, no...